How would you learn Korean in late 2025, soon 2026? So that's a question I asked myself recently because a few months ago I met a Korean girl in the street in Paris. And turns out, well, she's Korean, so I try to speak Korean and the vibe is here. And suddenly I'm like, wow, it's been such a long time I didn't speak and I still have the words coming up and flowing. That's great. Several weeks later, since I have this new encounter in my life, I'm curious about Korean again. I want to learn. So I go on the internet, I check what's new, how do people learn nowadays, and what do I realize? I realize it's all the same tools as before. It's Duolingo, it's Anki, Memrise, Quizlet, same concepts. Like there's only one app that is still fun to use. Many indie developers trying stuff, proposing stuff on Reddit for us to use. Nothing really that stands out. The first feeling I have is, okay, let's go for Duolingo. So originally that's what I do. I go on Duolingo and I start a few lessons. And I have like a 1 week streak first. And after a week, I feel like, wait, there's weird stuff going on here. Like, how can I explain? I end up on some lessons where I'm asked, how do you say the duck drinks milk? And I'm like, I never use the word duck. Like, Koreans don't really eat duck anyway. Milk, okay, I know the word, but a dog that drinks milk is not very common. It's not everyday speech. And it goes on and on like this. Like Duolingo gives me sentences I'm never going to use. Some words I already know that I know by heart, and I don't want to spend time, filling their gaps just to go through the lesson and see what's next in the next lesson. And so lesson by lesson, just like on this example on the screen, I realized that over 6 lessons that are displayed here on the page, it's actually only a few core words that are used and trained. And so you spend like 20 minutes on each lesson to memorize a few words. And so the total here may be for 2 hours of Duolingo over 6 days, you will have learned like 10 different sentences and maximum 10 different words. So I felt like 2 hours for 10 words is a lot because I'm not learning anything else meanwhile. And so as I was learning with Duolingo, very fast, I realized there were some mistakes as well. And so I felt frustrated because the one thing in Korean that is important as a foreigner, especially not living in the country, is to make sure that you are learning stuff that is actually used. Because if you learn stuff that is not used, or words that are like old school, literary, you end up speaking like a book, and you're not a book. So when you talk to people like you're a book, they never really like consider that you're seriously belonging there, right? So if your intention is to speak with friends or to go expat, you may be interested in knowing that what you learn matters. And so in several instances, Duolingo gave me sentences that I knew were wrong. And so like I knew that you would not say this way. Sadly, I don't have an example right now, but Duolingo would give you a sentence that is very literally translated. Like they took the English and translated it into Korean literally using the words, but Koreans would never say it this way. For instance, if you say, I am hungry, by making a long paraphrase about it, or literally saying like the hunger. Like if you use the word hunger to describe the fact that you're hungry, Koreans would never say it this way, because the idiomatic way of saying it in Korean is just I have an empty stomach. And so that's the very tricky part when it comes down to learning Korean on the internet. Um, you have Duolingo, Talk to Me in Korean, a bunch of flashcards app like Anki, where it's the same. You're going to learn like a robot, tons and tons of words that you're not sure you will ever use, and you will not actually practice making sentences either on your iPhone, as if you were texting, or orally, which are the two things that matter the most if you want to actually remember anything. You know, like your mind needs to see images tied to the words you're using, and that's how you become fluent. That's how, through repetition, but repetition that makes sense to you, you know, that is contextual to your life, using words you would actually want to use in your life in ways you would actually express yourself, tying them together with the new language you're learning. That's how you become fluent in your own way. And this own way of learning Korean is going to stick much more. It's going to stick much more if you go through like a textbook, an old school textbook like this, you know. Wait, I'm going to make the screen bigger for a second. So yeah, back then I was learning like Korean through this book, The Topic, you know. And you're thinking, okay, this way I can pass an exam and it's going to be super cool. And I will have a proof that I'm good. But the thing is, the proof that you're good is not doesn't come from an exam. You know, if you take an exam and you're able to speak literary words and read books, that's awesome. But that's not the everyday life you're going for. If you want to learn Korean, probably you actually have somebody in your life. I don't know, maybe your grandma is Korean, or you have a Korean friend you meet daily, or you intend to expat in Korea, or maybe you work in Korea, or maybe you want to listen to K-drama, or you want to follow a group conversation, right? And so in all these instances, you need actual daily speech, and that's what the market for me is cruelly missing. So why am I talking about this today? I created this little presentation to go over this. So who am I to talk about that? I learned Korean maybe now. I started 10 years ago. I realize it's incredible how time passes. And back then I had a Korean girlfriend, and right after we met, like a month later, she went for Korea for a month. That's how expats do, right? They go there every year for a month to see their family. And for this month I was kind of, you know, feeling bored, and so I started to learn Korean, and within 3 days I had learned the Hangul, and I was like, oh, this is an Asian language I can actually read. This is amazing. This is exciting. And so I learned this way. I started to read sentences just for the fun of it, you know, speaking them out loud, deciphering them. And as a software engineer, you know, languages, also my mom is a language teacher, like she speaks 5 languages, so I've always been kind of into it. So I had this curiosity from it, and so I kept going because, well, there was the Korean girlfriend, and I was curious about the language, and I started taking private lessons quite fast. Private lessons were like $20 a week, and so we will discuss about this later. But nowadays we can reach a much better level for much less than money, and much faster, in my opinion, than what I had in the past, because the private teacher is there to answer your questions, but now you have ChatGPT. And so, as I mentioned in the start of the video, The state of the art nowadays, for now, is still the same as it was before on the language market. You have Duolingo, Quizlet, Talk to Me in Korean. They are trying stuff with AI. Like if you go on Duolingo, you have new features involving AI, but guess what? It's so expensive. You're going to pay like, I don't know, $200 a year or even more to actually have a bit of AI talk, and it's very limited, very, very limited. So I realized there's a better way to learn Korean nowadays. If I was to learn Korean, it's by using ChatGPT, and very fast, as I mentioned in the start, I used Duolingo and sent screenshot to ChatGPT to find out if there was a mistake, and ChatGPT confirmed the mistake usually. And so I realized we need to use ChatGPT to learn. There's only one reason why you would not use ChatGPT to learn, is the fact that ChatGPT doesn't remember what you have learned, and so you cannot study it easily. It's like every conversation is a Google search, and so you're going to lose it. So I've already been over the old tools that are slow or irrelevant. Like motivation with Duolingo, it's hard to make it last if you realize that what you learn is really going slow and it's not accurate, and that's a real problem for me. I don't want to waste time learning wrong stuff, because the wronger you are, and the harder it becomes to actually correct it. So for me, and that's a very important aspect, ChatGPT is a complement to whatever else you want to use. If you like Duolingo, go for Duolingo. It's fine, it's fun, etc. But use ChatGPT with it. If you like textbooks, same thing. You can use your textbook. You can send screenshot to ChatGPT to learn stuff, to go deeper, ask all the questions you need in real time. Well, if you like Anki, probably you should stay with Anki, and I have nothing to say right here because I don't think my approach will align with Anki. But if you go for language partners or classrooms or private lessons, ChatGPT is a good complement as well. So ChatGPT changes a lot. And I think it's a bad idea to try to install so many apps to learn a language nowadays when you can just be fine with ChatGPT. It's a very, very nice complement to everything. So why would you need 3 different apps to learn? I see people learning Spanish, for instance, that have 3 different apps, like one for verbs, one for vocabulary, one for flashcard, one for everything. It's weird. ChatGPT does it all. You can have all the explanations you want in the verbs. Same for vocabulary, same for idiomacy. You have everything. The only thing there isn't, and that's where I come in, it's the memory, the fact of studying. It's good for instantaneous lessons for whatever you need, but you will forget the next day, because if you don't make a conscious effort somewhere to remember, you will forget. So the only way you would remember with ChatGPT would be if every day you go ask questions and you use what you remembered the last day, for instance, but that would demand a lot of effort on your part to keep track of your own self, right? So the power of ChatGPT learning is that it's just in time and contextual. What I mean by this is that you're basically driven by your own curiosity. That's the power of it. Like, you don't have to plan, like, okay, today at 7 p.m. I will open my textbook and go through lesson 17. And lesson 17 is about flowers. And today you don't have the mind for flowers, okay? Because your day was about children. I don't know. And what you actually want to say is talk to your children. Maybe you live in Korea and you have Korean children, and you're still not fluent, and you're like you want to actually say stuff to your children. So instead of learning lesson 17 on flowers in your textbook, well, all you have to do is open ChatGPT and try to say whatever you intend to say or ask for a translation. And once you do this, imagine how stronger the memory of it is going to be, because it is tied to your real life. It's stuff that you actually want to express that you're studying. This is powerful because you no longer need to be C1 or C2, like the CEFR levels that describe, A1, B1, B2, etc. That describe your ability, your fluency. Like, to be C2 in one's own language is already a lot of work. Not everyone in one's language is C2 in a way. And so why would you need to be C2 nowadays or C1? What you need to be is like B2 in your areas of interest. That's all you need. And so with ChatGPT, you can reach this much faster, in my opinion. Plus, if you train like this with ChatGPT, you get immediate corrections, the feedback, which means that very quickly you can correct yourself. Whereas before, you would perhaps make mistakes for 7 days in a row before you'd get like your weekly lesson, and this whole time you would have wasted on the wrong understanding. Now every time you have a doubt on something, you can clarify and save it. So I'll come to the saving part later, but that's where it gets interesting. So there's a bit of science around this, like emotion, neurologically, that's what encodes memory. And so if you're driven by your curiosity and whatever relevance there is to your life on a specific word you want to learn, then when you learn it, okay, this is a word I can use in this context, this context, this context in my life. And so it's directly tied, it directly reaches the right neurons, So the context ties everything together. So what we're missing with ChatGPT is the spaced repetition. So if you're serious about learning a language, probably you have heard about this. Even Duolingo implements a tiny bit of it. And it's what they do through the lessons, Every lesson is repeating the same words and everything. But if you want something a bit more fast-paced and effective, then you probably are ready to have a spaced repetition system like a flashcard system to learn, because you no longer need the motivation from the Duolingo mascot, the all, and the fun of it, and all the gamification there is. All you need to have for motivation is your curiosity, to be driven by what you want to say any single day. And there's always something on your mind or something you want to describe around you, right? So that's how it is so far. Let's get over with the new idea I have in the way I intend to learn Korean. So when I realized that the state of the art was kind of old school still, and that I was using ChatGPT, I decided as a software developer that I would make my own tool. And so I spent several weeks and months building my own tool so I can efficiently learn the Korean I want. So the way it works is I bring in the curiosity. So whatever I want to say, ChatGPT is going to correct me. So either I'm going to ask for translation or I will try a Korean sentence right away. ChatGPT is going to give an answer. And what I will do is I will just go into the custom GPT I made here. So instead of using pure ChatGPT, I will use the Korean trainer ChatGPT, and I will ask it, save this flashcard XXX, okay, where XXX is like a Korean word. And doing this, I will get into the Amgi.app study, and I will be able to see the flashcard that I can study every day until it's perfect and I can flag it as memorized. So that's the whole idea. That's what I've implemented so far, and that's what I intend to do for the few months to come. Now that I have built the tool, that I will actually start to use it very efficiently. And we will record this on this channel. So yeah, if you're curious, you can subscribe, and we'll see every day or every other day how I'm making progress on this challenge. Let's see. So yeah, I'm about to enter a 3-month challenge with this app. It will be the moment to test whether we can really learn Korean faster, how efficiently, and more importantly, how satisfying it can be. Because I really think that it's much more satisfying at the end of the day to feel competent rather than feel excited by tiny, gamified things like in Duolingo, like, oh, my score, I have 500 score more, blah, 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 or the leaderboard. I think that's, it's indirect fun and it's not related to the language learning itself. I think it's much more empowering to feel that you're making progress. And I'm really curious to see how much progress I can do in 90 days doing this, maybe 1 hour a day, maybe 30 minutes. The important part will be to do it every day, I think. So maybe I will go live for 10 minutes someday just to do it, rather than entirely skip something. So I think that's the idea. Every day I would go live and for 90 days, and I will be trying to learn 1,000 relevant words. So what I mean by relevant words is, well, that's a whole thing. There's a lot to speak about on this, but I created this little page, Vocab Explorer, where I've identified the 10,000 most frequent words. Actually 11,000. So I didn't make them up, right? It's existing lists on the internet, but I just took them all together, removed the duplicates. And what I did is with the ChatGPT, I made a script so we can identify which ones are more frequent. And so as you can see, we have many words that are like 10 over 10 in terms of frequency, but some that are like frequent but academic, for instance, or some that are specific to finance. And at some point, right now it's like only 10, but there are many words that are like frequency 1. So like there's a way of saying what that is nouveau, that is archaic and literary. And if you try to learn this, you're like wasting your time, because there's an alternative that is more and that is used, and a lot of the things like this, like, or you could realize that an old way of saying horse is juma, and maybe in your textbook there is juma, but actually it's archaic, literary, and never used. And so if you come to people and you speak like this, you will be considered weird. And so you realize that in the 10,000 most frequent words from frequency lists, you have old school written literary words. So yeah, that's waste of time, isn't it? Anyway, let's go back to the presentation. Where was I? Yeah, refresh. That's my bad. Yeah, the challenge. So the 19-day challenge. There are several ways to go about it. I try to make a guideline. So, like, I felt like maybe some days I would not be inspired, or I would feel like I need some, track. Like in Duolingo, there's a track in Duolingo, and that's pretty cool. And so the plan is every day I will study with the flashcard app the words from the day before. But some days I may not be inspired about what I want to learn, and I would just type like the 1,000 words track in the custom GPT. So the custom GPT, the link is in the description. So if you want to use it, you can have, I think if you have ChatGPT free, you can, so in the free version, you could use it, but like for 5 times. So up to 5 questions a day. So it's still good enough. But I would recommend having a subscription to ChatGPT for this. And then if I use the 1,000 words track here, it will pull frequent words to learn. So it will pull words from my list, and it will pull words from the Korean track. I mean, for the 1,000 words here that are in this list, but only from the top 1,000. So you are sure not to waste your time on anything, because you know that whatever ChatGPT is going to give you is words from this list. So that's one way I will be learning. So I will both be asking questions, sometimes learn words from the Korean track, from the 1,000 words track. And so as you can see, the 1,000 words track in the custom GPT, which is, by the way, focused on Banmal, because I'm really aiming for daily speech. So we're removing everything that is literary or everything that is honorific or polite. And we're really focusing on these words. And so see here on the 1,000 words track, it's pulling what I have already saved, like Nika here, and it's giving me some everyday vocabulary. Like, so the first thing it does, it's trying to make me learn sentences. I mean, create sentences from English, because English to Korean is the hardest work. And so if you try your hardest, obviously you will practice better. Obviously, if you need to go from Korean to English, you can study your flashcards in the opposite direction in the app, which is something that is hard in Anki, because you have to make a different deck if you were doing this. But here, if you want, you can just switch your mode, and you start with Korean. Then if you're not sure what it means, you go back here, you turn around, and then you're on to the next flashcard. So yeah, I think I've been over everything. I think there's only one thing I actually want to say, because I've been over the categorization system. I mean, I won't go so much into detail, but basically there's a whole idea between how I categorized every words here. There's also the CFR level associated to a word. So if you're curious about, okay, this word, what level is it, you can just go into the vocab explorer here and search for a word. This is public. You don't need to be logged in, I think. You will know the register if it's used every day. You will know if it's part of the daily life, if it's a spoken use or written use, how formal it is, and the frequency. And very important, if there is an alternative to the word, like if it's literary, you will be given the daily speech alternative. So the expected outcome is like, I would like to try 1,000 words in 3 months. So that's about, I think, 10 or 20 words a day. That's a lot, obviously. Maybe I will not make it. But the whole idea is that the 1,000 most common words really mostly used represent usually what people say. They represent about 90% of your actually daily life. So if you actually learn these 1,000 words, the promise, the dream is that you can actually catch 90% of conversations, right? And then for the remaining 10%, your risk reward, your effort to Korean ratio becomes less and less. And that's the moment where you would probably need to live in the country to make actual progress. But still, if you are there and you're past this 1,000 words, probably still ChatGPT is the way to go, the perfect complement for your daily life, for your questions. And then you need to save flashcards directly from ChatGPT. And so that's the whole idea here. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So just a bit of money in terms of money regards. You might be thinking, okay, $20 for ChatGPT is a lot. I don't want to pay this. And I'm not even advocating ChatGPT because I didn't build ChatGPT, obviously. I just built this custom GPT that you can find in the description. And so custom GPT, if you don't know, is just ChatGPT prompted in such a way that it knows how to answer you efficiently for a given use case. So here it's the parameters are for Banmal Korean, so daily speech, no politeness and everything for friends basically, and daily talk. And it knows how to connect to Amgi, so pulling your flashcards, saving them, so you're always learning something relevant to what you're already studying. But so 20 euros a month for ChatGPT, when you compare for your hourly rate of a lesson or a private lesson, and considering how much more data and information you can get, I think it's really, really a nice spend. And Amgi itself, well, for now it's free. I mean, on the flashcard app, because I have all the features waiting that will be very, very powerful and that I will show in a different video. But yeah, for now it's free. You can join the beta if you want. I think it's here. I'm not sure if I can access it now. But basically the beta, it just states, it's just what I just said about the app being free. What we're doing here is that we want to create the best experience for Korean learning and language learning in general in the future. But yeah, we're reinventing the way we learn languages. The flashcard being connected to ChatGPT is the first step, and I have other steps that are ready that I will show in a different video. So wherever you're at, it seems, yeah, it's a good bet to try to learn this way. And if you're worried about motivation, well, follow, because I will be learning every day soon. I'm going to try to set this up in my daily rhythm. As I said, maybe 5 minutes someday, 10 minutes at least. I need to connect, go live, and record my flashcard study with you guys. And so we'll go through the flashcard study, but also through a bit of questioning ChatGPT on this custom GPT on the Amgi trainer to learn stuff that matters to me. So yeah, that's the whole idea, to learn the Korean that matters to you. And the cool thing is, wherever you're at, whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, ChatGPT is really there for you. And so all you have to do then is connect this free flashcard app and get ready to learn. That's all for today, guys. I hope to see you again. I will get into this rhythm very soon, and best of luck for your Korean journey.